Hello and welcome to a Brothers Creed movie review. We are the Thomas Brothers, and I'm Ethan.
And I'm Jared, and this is the first in a series that we're going to do this year of movie reviews. And this is our movie review for the month of January. We're reviewing the movie The Pale Blue Eye on Netflix, starring Christian Bale, Batman. And it's an interesting movie. So the way we're going to do these movie reviews is we want to make it where you can listen to maybe the first part of our episode and you can see whether you want to see it or not. So we're going to give a non-spoiler review of the movie in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the thing, and then we'll let you know that the spoilers are going to happen. And so we'll say,
if you haven't seen the movie yet, you can drop, go watch the movie, and then come back, because then we're going to be kind of breaking down a little bit more details of what actually happened. We're going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end, and everything in between.
And we're also going to just dig more into details about why we ranked our certain categories the way we did. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it 6 categories that we are ranking these movies on? And then we have 5 categories, and then we have an overall average. So it's pretty cool.
So this movie was interesting, right? It's kind of a crime / horror / mystery movie. So as we break it down, we'll definitely give you the yay or the nay, whether you should go see it or not. So let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Most valuable commodity I know of is information.
And that, my friends, is called integrity. That's called courage. Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.
Either you're somebody or you're nobody.
You're not the devil. You're practice.
So maybe let's give this is the non-spoiler portion, and let's give a little bit of a synopsis of what happened. So the movie is on Netflix. It's rated R, but really I didn't feel like it was there was no language, no nudity. There was some violence, obviously, because it's a murder mystery type of a film. So you can
I was really
that.
surprised. I was kind of confused by that, to be completely honest, because I've seen PG-13 movies that were way more than this was, and so it's probably just because it's a murder mystery, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that there's certain themes in it that might be adult themes, but I mean,
I wouldn't particularly watch it with your kids.
Yeah, with your young kids. But it's an interesting movie. I wouldn't say there's anything really foul in it.
No.
So Christian Bale, who many folks know him as Batman, he's in tons of other movies. He's kind of the main character. He plays a role of a investigator or a private eye, right?
Yep, Augustus Landor is his name.
Mm-hmm. And then the next one, I was joking with Ethan that the next main character is Neville Longbottom from Harry Potter. His actual name is Harry Melling, and he plays Edgar Alan Poe in this one, who, he was at Fort Moultrie in South Carolina, in Charleston.
Interesting.
So, didn't know if you knew that.
So, so kind of overarching non-spoilers, you can go on IMDb or any summary of the movie, and is... like we said, this main character, Mr. Landor, is an investigator, and he is kind of hired by the top officials at West Point to come in and investigate a death. And so he comes in and he actually recruits one of the candidates at West Point to help him in his investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll kind of leave it at that. And that recruit is that second character, who is Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah. So let's go through our rankings of the film. First, we have cinematography, which in this, what I think of when we rank cinematography is what were the costumes like? What was the filming like? What was the background? What are the scenes? What are the all that goes into it.
How was if there was any CGI? How was the CGI?
Exactly. So I rated this one, the cinematography, a 7.
Okay.
I thought it was actually pretty good. A 7 is good for me. I felt. Oh well, I won't go too. We're just giving the rankings now. We're going further.
Yes. So yeah, we're gonna explain why these scores in the spoiler section. I rank the cinematography as a 6.
Okay, good.
So a 6 and a 7. We're close there.
All right. The plot and the story. What'd you give it, Ethan?
So the plot and the story. This is kind of breaking down more of like how it all unfolded and was it interesting? Did it keep your attention?
Mm-hmm.
Everything else. So I rated the plot and story at an 8.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I gave the plot and story a 6.
Okay.
What about the acting and the actors?
So I also gave this section an 8. I thought it was pretty good.
I also gave it an 8. Yeah. I think Christian Bale did a great job, and so did
Yeah.
Harry
I mean, this
Melling.
won't ruin any spoilers. So I will say it that it felt realistic to the era.
Yeah. Which is the era was in the 1830s.
Yeah, mid 1800s.
1830s. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of our other things here is, does this movie push an agenda? You can't even turn on the Disney Channel nowadays without seeing an agenda that's being pushed. But I felt like I did not see any specific agenda that was being pushed in this movie.
No, me neither. I put neutral as this one. I felt like it was pretty in the middle. I mean, there really wasn't much, I guess, modern day political agenda tied into it,
which is refreshing.
Yeah.
Career building. What did you think? What was your ranking on career building?
Not career building, creed building.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
So this is the whole point of our Brothers Creed podcast. Is this movie going to help build your personal creed? I kind of considered this, and maybe we can debate this out, Jared. But I would say that so these rankings are from 1 to 10. Mm-hmm. We didn't really say at the beginning, but these are from 1 to 10.
Stars out of 10. So 1 to 10 stars out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, a creed building 5 is kind of neutral, it didn't hurt or help very much.
Mm-hmm.
And then anything kind of below that is just kind of
creed destroying,
not creed destroying, but it is just losing extreme value at that point.
Yeah.
So as far as building of my personal creed after I watched this movie, I didn't particularly feel like it built my creed much. I put this one as a 5.
Yeah.
So kind of right in the middle.
I put this one as a 6, and I'll explain why later.
Okay.
So what was your overall ranking? Mine was 6.75.
So my overall average rank was a 6.75.
No way. Hey, that's
we started this segment because Jared and I have differing opinions on movies, and
that's so funny how we gave
different.
some different. We gave different rankings on each one of these, but we came to the same conclusion at the end. That's funny. All right, well, I'm ready to get into it. So this is where the spoiler portion begins.
So I'll say before we get to that part.
Okay.
6.75 for me. I'll watch a movie that's a 6.75.
You'll watch a movie that's a 3.
Yeah, I watch those Dolph Lundgren C-rated movies, man. Those are good. So yeah, I would suggest that you see this movie.
Oh yeah.
It was definitely an entertaining 2.3 hours or whatever it was.
Yeah, I would say if it's worth it depends on how busy you are. I would say it's a very cerebral movie that at times is slow, but is intriguing. I'll say that right now, and a kind of a spoiler-free
version.
Oh,
one last thing that we didn't talk about is is this a movie that you can see at home, or should you go to a movie theater to see this movie?
Well,
And my answer was, there's no need for a movie theater. Just
No.
watch it at home.
yeah. Plus, I don't even think you can't see it at home. It's only Netflix.
Yeah,
so.
because it's
But yeah,
I mean,
there's
we'll
nothing like movie theater movies to me have to be like big productions, like really awesome stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll give you a couple seconds. Now it was going to start the spoilers edition.
if you haven't, if you're wondering, you say, oh, well, maybe I'll go see it, and then come back and then listen to this portion and see if you agree with us.
Yeah. So here come the spoilers from The Pale Blue Eye.
Okay, so I think that generally the movie was pretty cool. I did like the cinematography. Maybe we can go through and talk about each one of the things again.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I felt like the whole movie, like when he's at the beginning at the stream,
So what'd you give it cinematography? What'd you give it again?
7.
7? Okay.
When he's at the beginning and it was so cold and like just snow everywhere, and then like the costumes, all the soldiers' costumes, I thought was really cool. Also, one of the things that this movie was just very intelligent, very cerebral, where it made you think about all the little tiny details, like remember when that guy was hanging and the one soldier said, oh, he looked like he was sitting in a seat. And you're like, oh, well,
his feet were on the ground.
Yeah. And he's like, well, he must have not been hanged. Someone must have been there hauling on it. I thought that was kind of, interesting. I thought like just the cinematography of having that dead body in the pool, like the bathtub for some reason, the cold bathtub. And then
I think they were just keeping it, for preserving the body.
Yeah. The whole thing where the crazy scene where it kind of explodes, where at near the end when they're like doing this sacrifice where she's got the blood all over her face, and it's like these really rich people, but they're like into something that's really deep, and dark. I was like, well, that's kind of nuts.
Yeah. So I had said 6 on cinematography. I thought that and maybe it's just my eyes, but I really struggle with like dark movies. So a lot of it was at night, and it was just kind of very dark, and you couldn't see what was going on, and I'm like having to get closer to the TV or turn off all the lights or whatever. So it was kind of dark. It was kind of dark at points.
Yeah. Not as dark as like Game of Thrones though.
No.
And that's like pitch black.
Yeah, seriously. And then the part that you said with like the fire and the explosion and stuff like that, I thought that the kind of like looked very CGI. It looked very computer generated to a certain extent. But I kind of contradicting myself with what I just said. One thing that I liked with the cinematography is they did really play with the dark and the light, right? It would go from like a super dark scene to all of a sudden like a midday scene in the white snow.
Yeah.
Or he'd be sitting in a chair, and then like half of his face would be lit and half of his face would be dark.
Yeah.
And so they kind of played with the dark and the light a little bit, which was kind of cool.
I also like the costumes. I mean,
the costumes were really
the
good.
women's costumes was just, they were great.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was funny some of the hats that the cadets were wearing. Like it was just funny. The West Point cadets.
Yeah, totally. So that was, I just felt cold the whole movie. I was like, man, I need a blanket. This thing is like freezing cold here. So that was kind of interesting. So let's go to talk about the plot and the story. So would you go first on this one?
So I gave this one, I gave it an 8. I gave it an 8 because it was what I felt was it was layered, and it had I guess we're in the spoiler section here. So it had the twist at the end. I don't know if I really want to call it a twist. I more of call it like an addition, right? It kind of had this point at the end where you think the whole movie is over. The doctor's kids were the ones that were killing these people, and they got caught, and they got killed in this fire, and then you're just like, oh, man, that's over. And I kind of thought to myself, I was like, that was it. Like, I was like, that's not really that interesting. I mean, it was kind of cool or whatever, but I was like, I think everybody kind of predicted that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And you're ready for the movie to be over. And then all of a sudden it's just like this additional thing that's just kind of like dumped in your lap of the main Mr. Landor's, the main investigator's involvement in kind of almost setting this whole thing up from the very beginning. Which I was watching it with my wife. We both kind of looked at each other and we were like, wait, what? We both like sat up in our chair, like more strict, because we were just kind of lounging or whatever. We both sat up. We were like, wait, what? What's going on? And it was kind of a cool, just extra umph at the end of the movie that kind of grabbed your attention.
Did you see it coming at all?
No, I didn't at all. I didn't.
Did you? When did you expect it? When did you suspect it was the doctor or the doctor's family?
Whenever the first time they showed when Edgar Allan Poe, or when Poe saw that lady walking, then and you found out that she was the doctor's daughter, and when they were like, oh, the heart was taken out surgically, and it was with very good precision and everything else. I was like, it's got to be somebody related to the doctor.
Yeah.
Somebody that's had some sort of autopsy training or experience or, something like that. And so I knew that whoever cut the initial heart out of that one guy was going to be, if it didn't seem like it was the doctor right off, because he just kind of played like a dumb character. So I knew it was going to be someone close to him. It could have been his wife, but then the whole thing just kind of revolved around his kids.
Yeah. So I kind of thought that I was like, okay, so as soon as Christian Bale got there and he's like talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, and then he starts finding all these things that the doctor missed. Like, he's like, oh, feel the back of his head. And he's like, oh, yeah, he's got contusions on the back of his head. I can't believe I missed that. And he's like...
Yeah, and he goes, anyone could have missed that, doctor. Like, just like sarcastically, like...
And then he's like, pries open the guy's hands, and he finds the note in his hand. And he's like, oh, anybody could have missed that. And then I was like, dude, this doctor's hiding something. And so that's when then when he finds the... like the circle in that cabin place. How did he find the cabin place, by the way? I forgot how they even found it.
It was like the freezer shack, I think is what that was. And he said, oh, it's probably hidden somewhere cold. The heart would have been somewhere cold. And so that's where he went to the freezer shack, which was that cabin thing. And
that's where they found the candles.
That's where he found the seance circle or whatever.
Yeah. So I thought that, like, I was like, okay, so, but then when he mentioned, oh yeah, so this is for, he mentioned the book about conjuring something to heal someone or give someone immortality. As soon as I found out his daughter was sick, I knew immediately he was trying to save his daughter. And so, but I was like, okay, so I actually went on a walk like mid-movie with Shannon because she wasn't watching with me, but we went on a walk, and I'm like, okay, I think I got this thing figured out. I was like, I don't know who did the first murder, but I know that the doctor likely cut out his heart because he needed a hanged man's heart, and he's trying to save his daughter with his wife as well, because his wife she was really weird.
She was wonky, yeah.
With the whole thing. And so I was like, but I don't know who actually killed the guy in the first place. And then the second murder was totally senseless, and that wouldn't have anything to do with the seance. So I was like, I don't even know who did that either. But
and then they cut out his heart and castrated him.
Yeah.
And so that seemed a lot more personal than the first one.
Yeah, you don't
And when they said, and when the doctor said, "Oh, this heart being cut out was not nearly as precise as the first one," and I thought that, oh, well, so maybe it was the brother or something like that. Maybe it was, the other sibling of the other child of the doctor that wasn't maybe as proficient with the scalpel.
Yeah. But it makes much more sense when you think about in hindsight that it was a copycat, and he was trying to make everybody think, because he basically got called in to solve the own murder that he had done.
Yeah. So spoiler alert: the Mr. Landor guy, the investigator, right? His daughter had been raped, obviously, by the the three main friends in that group, the son,
Yeah.
and then the two his two friends.
And
And
so he
so
went to go get vengeance.
yeah, he went to get vengeance, but it was interesting because he went to get vengeance on the main guy. But then did he know that everything would fall into place with all this
No.
with the
I think because
Yeah.
that's why he was so surprised at the beginning, because he goes and kills this guy, and then the next day West Point shows up at his house, and they're like, "Hey, you need to come with us," and he's like, "What if I say no?
do I have to go?
Yeah, because he thought he was in trouble or something, and then he goes up and they're like, "Hey, we need your help," and he's like, "Okay," and so he kind of finds this thing, and then he said that later he did the killed the cow and all that kind of stuff to kind of
Yeah.
throw him off, and he arranged in the woods to kind of throw him off his scent and make it about these like, seance, the kind of devil worshiping kind of thing.
Yeah, so it was just kind of
So
yeah, it was interesting.
that was
So
interesting.
he kind of just took advantage of the situation,
Yeah, so I
trying
thought
to cover up his tracks.
it was clever in that sense. I thought the story was, we'll talk about the acting in a minute, but I think the acting was just great and was well told. But there's a couple of things that I just didn't like about it. I thought the movie just kind of dragged on a little bit, like in the middle, where
there
Edgar
was some
Allan
dead spots.
Edgar
yeah.
Allan Poe kind of starts falling in love with the daughter, Leah Marquis, and I'm like, why is this even necessary to the story? There's like this whole thing where he's in love with her, and then
I thought it was kind of dumb that as he was strapped to this table and she was about to cut out his heart, that he was still like in love with her.
Yeah.
I thought that was dumb.
Yeah, I was like, what the
Like,
heck?
he's like, no, when she's dying. He's like, dude, she was just about to murder you.
Yeah,
son."
exactly. She was just playing you, fool, so that she could murder you. And then, like,
Yeah.
at the end, he's like, oh, Christian Bale, he's like, oh, Mr. Landor, you killed my love, and I'll never forgive you. I'm like, dude, you knew her for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, and she tried to kill you.
Yeah. At one point, a very brief point in the movie, I did suspect it was Edgar Allan Poe. That was the murderer, because he's just so clever,
Yeah.
But I was like, well, what would be his motive, and I just couldn't think of anything. But so that part was kind of dragged on, and I could tell because I was like pulled out my phone and I was like, okay, I'm bored with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I would say without the part at the end where all of that kind of comes to light, I probably would have given it like the plot probably like a 5 or 6. But I felt like that, like the last 20 minutes of the movie, I felt like that really kind of saved it for me, and it kind of made everything else make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, like the whole investigation thing, and that was all. But then, like in the middle of the movie, they stopped really investigating, and then it's just this love story. So it kind of loses some of that steam, and that's why I gave it a 6, because it just kind of lost some of that, and then you're like, oh, okay, and then it kind of picks up towards the final act. So anyway, that's why I gave it a 6.
Okay.
Let's do acting and actors. What'd you think?
I give this one an 8. I thought it was really good. I thought it was realistic. I thought it was to
Me too.
error. I liked the costumes. I liked the accents were pretty good. Poe's accent was,
It was a little weird.
I mean, it was a little weird, but it was kind of like this like Southern draw type.
Yeah.
But I thought it was good. I thought it was really good.
Was he from the
I like
South? Was Edgar Allan Poe from the South? I looked up later. I looked up somewhere and it said he was from Maine.
I don't know.
So I was like,
don't
that
know.
doesn't sound like a northern accent. I don't know. Maybe the accents change over time, but
Well, what's funny is I kind of looked into it, and Edgar Allan Poe did actually go to West Point from 1831 to 1832, but he was kicked out for gross negligence of duty and disobedience to orders. He held the record for most disciplinary actions against him in the time he was there.
That's funny. Obviously, this is a fictional story, but kind of based against some real things that happen in real life.
Historical fiction.
I thought the acting was great. I thought all the actors did a really good job. Christian Bale was great. I thought Edgar Allan Poe, the Harry Melling, I thought he did an excellent job, almost equivalent to Christian Bale.
Agreed.
Also, the Gillian Anderson, you might recognize her from X-Files. She is smoking hot. She's I don't know how old she is, but she used to be in the old X-Files, and she has aged, magnificently.
Which one is she?
She's 54 years old. She's the doctor's wife.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, she's gorgeous. And I've always liked her because she was in the X-Files. She's a great actress. She's just kind of a crazy, old lady in this one, but she also did a great job. And they were the main actors, but I thought it was good. The actors were great.
Yeah, agreed.
So the agenda, I didn't see any agenda in this one.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, I think there's different themes. I think the themes why it was rated R is just the whole theme with her being raped, and then there's just being like this weird like cutting people's organs out, and I mean that is probably where that R rating came from. But
yeah, and I mean, I guess if you wanted to dig deeper, it was like the politics of like the leadership at West Point and how they look down on people and whatever, like the upper echelon kind of looks at the lesser people, but that wasn't modern day political.
Well, actually,
so I thought it was pretty neutral.
I would say that maybe there was one thing in it. Now that I think about it really hard. So remember when Christian Bale, he was saying to like one of the main captains of West Point, he was saying something like, the military just turns men into slaves. It removes their individual thought. Remember that portion?
Yeah.
And then the guy was like, "You know what you're talking about." And then I think Christian Bale was just venting because of what had happened to his daughter. Which in hindsight you're like, "Oh yeah, he was pissed." Because his daughter goes to West Point, you're thinking she's going to be amongst gentlemen, and then she gets raped on the way home. So
yeah, that's true. Well, and there was one other part too. I don't know if you caught this, but whenever the doctor's son invites Poe to go into like their little hangout,
yeah,
right, and they were there and they were drinking and playing poker or whatever, and they started talking about Fry, who was the initial guy that got killed,
the
first guy that got killed,
and
the son of the doctor looks at one of the other guys and says, "Well, you would know. You were close with him.
Yeah,
you were the one that was really close with him," kind of like inferring that they were
in relations or something,
like in a relationship, or that there was like some homosexuality or something like that there, some kind of gay relationship. But they never came back to that. They never said anything else about it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a weird thing that I caught, but they never really dug into anymore.
Yeah. So overall, I didn't think there was anything they were pushing majorly. So for the Creed building, you said nothing. I said a 6, so I felt like there was a little bit of something there. For that one, I felt like when I was done with the movie, I liked how clever it was. I liked how the attention to detail was just so cool. It made me want to be more situationally aware of what was going on around me. Another thing that I liked is just he did share some of his poetry. There are some times when he's dating the girl and he's quoting poetry back at her, and that's something that I've actually talked to you about. I was like, we should do a podcast about like poetry and like some great poets of the time, and I think that it kind of inspired me a little bit more to dig maybe a little bit more into poetry as an art form, and just be more open to that. And so I guess in the sense it opened me a little bit more up to poetry, and also kind of motivated me to be a little bit more intentional about what I'm doing, a little more thoughtful, self-aware, and aware of the things. Maybe not self-aware. I mean, like situational awareness is what I mean, about the things that are going on. Because it was kind of cool at the end where he put all those puzzle pieces together, what everything that happened. Then he like kind of schools Christian Bale, and he's just like sitting in his chair getting absolutely blown away by this guy who just rocked him. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great call out. I agree, and I think there's definitely things you could take away. But yeah, so I think one
question I had. So at the end when he's like, when Christian Bale, Mr. Lenore, he said to Edgar Allan Poe, he was like, I chose you because I thought you would be the one to turn me in. So do you think he initially had the idea that someone would find him out and he wanted to be found out? Or do you think that he just suggested, hey, if anyone's going to find out, it's going to be this kid?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, the thing is too is that I guess that letter he gave him was a confession. At the very end,
he gave back because he showed him that letter that said like, meet me in the fridge house, take courage, because that handwriting.
I thought it was like, because I didn't realize that was the same letter. I thought that it was like maybe a confession or something that he wrote, and then Poe burned it.
Yeah, because he said he had written 2 letters. He said, I have 2 written letters of confession, and then he says, he gives him the paper back that had his handwriting on it. Which is how he connected the whole thing, and then he went, I'm going to burn this, and then so he was almost giving him, say, turn me in, here you go, the ball's in your court, and then he burned that to destroy that evidence,
Yeah, and so I guess I agree with you. And whenever he burned it, Landor started crying. Christian Bale started crying.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he must have, I don't know, he must have wanted to die, maybe because after losing his daughter and everything else, he probably was just so, tired of everything.
Yeah.
And really that kind of leads to the ultimate question that I had is, did he jump?
Did he jump at the end when he lets go of his daughter?
Well, yeah, at the very end, whenever he's standing on the ledge and he has that ribbon in his hand,
yeah,
and then he lets go. It's the same ledge that his daughter jumped off of and committed suicide, and so he lets the ribbon go, and then he's kind of standing there with his arms out, and then the screen goes black. Do you think he jumped?
I did not interpret that. I just interpreted that he was just letting go of it. He's going back to the place where his daughter had died, and he was just letting that ribbon go, like letting go of her. Like, I'm done with this.
That's
I've avenged you.
I interpreted it as he was jumping. He's committing suicide.
Oh, interesting.
He was following his daughter. Because he kind of wanted to get caught because he had brought Poe on and all this kind of stuff, and he was kind of prepared to get caught. But then whenever Poe basically let him off the hook, I don't think he could stand himself.
Maybe, yeah. I guess if you have the thought that he had planned to have Poe along the whole time and he wanted Poe to turn him in, that's why he brought him in close. Then yeah, maybe he just, when he was crying at the end because he wanted to be turned in and he wasn't.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of interpreted it as that like he thought that Poe might figure him out, and he finally did because he kind of outwitted him. And then at the end, he was crying because Poe gave him mercy. And then at the end, he came in and he just was letting go of his daughter where she had died. So it's a little bit of
that's interesting how we interpreted that differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he jumped for sure.
Huh. So, also one more note I had here on Creed building. Definitely want to teach my sons that you walk a girl home, especially if she is walking through the woods in the middle of the night.
Yes.
So overall ranking, I did 6.75. You did as well.
Yep.
I think for a little bit different reasons. It sounds like we actually had a little bit of a different outcome or thoughts on the end of the movie. But yeah, generally I would say that it was slow. At times, I think there was, towards the end it picked back up, and then the twist at the end kind of made it a little more worth it. Without the twist at the end, I probably would have given this like a low 5 or a high 4.
Yeah, it would have been a different story without that ending. So, well, each of it, do we want to share quotes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so each of us kind of came up with a critique quote, right? Because now that we're professional movie critics, we have to have a quote. Obviously, they're going to post in the newspaper.
Exactly, yes.
In the Creed Times.
Yeah, exactly.
And so my quote was, "A dark thinker with an ending that will make you sit up in your seat."
Nice. I like that. That's very movie quote-esque. I love that. You should have shared that one earlier because that's good. That's a non-spoiler. I didn't share mine fully earlier because I didn't want to spoil the finale, but I said a well-acted cerebral movie that dragged at times to an unexpected finale. So
Nice. Yeah.
So I didn't want to say that because it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler to say, oh, well, maybe not, because maybe you
An
think
unexpected finale. Well,
yeah,
I
because
don't
if
know.
you're like, oh, well, I expected it to be the doctor's family, but so I didn't want to ruin. That would almost kind of a little bit ruin it because you're like, oh no, that's expected. So what's the unexpected thing? So then you'd keep it in your mind,
Yeah.
So
All
anyway,
right. Well, this has been the first episode of Brothers Creed movie reviews.
let
The
us know.
first of many.
Yes, let us know what you think, or let us know what movies you think we should review. Follow us on Instagram or TikTok. We're going to be posting these videos up there, so please share and like them, these videos, and we will look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Well, let's hopefully we can use these movies to implement a better way of living, a better life, being a better person, and building our creeds together.
All right, let's do it.